The return of the Foretellers has set up this next arc in Kingdom Hearts for quite the interesting dynamics, especially since the epilogue alluded to the Foretellers and the Master of Masters being the new antagonists in the Lost Master arc. And while we're eager to hear more from Luxu and figure out just where Ava is, what about some of the other Foretellers who may seem more neutral and loyal to what the Master may have planned? Welcome back everyone, this is your girl Empowered Muse, and today we're going to discuss what we might see from the other Foretellers outside of Luxu and Ava in this next arc, and dive deeper into their possible motives as it relates to the Master of Masters. So I covered this a bit in a previous video, but I think it's safe to say that a good number of us noticed something in the first promotional art for Kingdom Hearts 4. Specifically when you look at the Foretellers and the Master of Masters up top. While yes, the Master of Masters is centered with his apprentices around him, some of them are facing different directions. But I wanted to focus on two particular Foretellers, each one facing in different directions. Because I think if we see any more of their actions and motives in this new arc, that it will actually make for a very interesting story in the Lost Master arc. So the first Foreteller I wanted to focus on is Ira, who's facing forward in the very same direction as the Master of Masters. And right off the bat, this is pretty much saying that Ira is most likely to remain loyal to the Master of Masters, even with the possibility of Luxu detailing the Master's full plans to the Foretellers in the epilogue of Kingdom Hearts 3. So I think the most interesting development we could see throughout the Lost Master arc is to what extent will Ira's loyalties to the Master go? From simply looking at the promotional art showing the Foretellers is giving the impression that Ira will likely be in lockstep with the Master of Masters after being summoned to this time. And it might even be Ira who's the second hooded figure standing beside the Master of Masters in the first Kingdom Hearts 4 trailer, since we don't really have confirmation of just who's standing on top of the building overlooking Sora's fight with the dark side in Quadratum. And Ira's perceived loyalty isn't really far off from what we saw in the HD movie Key back cover. Ira very much stuck to the Master's teachings and plans despite the Foretellers not being made fully aware of the Master's initial plans that he shared with Luxu and Union Cross. So despite Ira actually being used as part of the Master's plans to bring about the darkness that was locked away within him and the other apprentices, there didn't really seem to be a lot of hesitation for Ira when he was tasked to step up and take lead after the Master disappeared, as it was his role manufactured by the Master of Masters. But going forward, I'm very curious to see just how loyal Ira will remain to the Master of Masters. I'm not expecting much deviation from his loyalty, at least in the first part of the Lost Master arc, but there's always a chance that Ira might turn against the Master later on in the series. However, from the looks of Ira's position and his loyalty to the Master's teachings, it seems that Luxu's information wasn't enough to turn him away from the path the Master set for him, at least for the time being. So while Ira seems to appear steadfast and loyal to the Master of Masters, even after being summoned back by Luxu, the same may not be said for Acid, who in the Kingdom Hearts 4 promotional art is standing a bit farther back from the Master of Masters and seems to be staring off to the right side with his head up, though not fully turned away like Ava right beside him. And I think this reflects Acid's sense of duty rather than straight up loyalty. Acid's duty to light and justice could pit him against the Master's overall plans, and it's hard to say whether Acid would take Luxu's recounting of events as well as possibly Ira, for example. So it's a little harder to say where exactly Acid will be placed in the immediate aftermath of being resummoned by Luxu. And we even got a snippet of how Acid's sense of duty overpowers what would be his loyalty to the Master of Masters in Key back cover. While Acid didn't initially want to stray from the Master's taskings, he did begin to take matters into his own hands once there seemed to be a bigger threat of darkness. Acid's duty to righteousness very much clouded what could be seen as his better judgment, as he began to attempt to form alliances to gather even more Lux against the other unions he suspected of collecting Lux for nefarious purposes. So while Acid's duty to a sense of righteousness outweighed his loyalties, it wasn't always practiced in the best light. In fact, we saw just how extreme this played out in both Key back cover and in Union Cross. And so after Acid learns the full story of what the Master was planning from Luxu, I suspect that Acid will be one of the first Foretellers to stray from the Master once more based on his sense of duty and just what will guide his sense of duty this time around. Whether Acid can successfully develop a full counterplan to what the Master of Masters is planning throughout the Lost Master arc remains to be seen. But if we can't anticipate anything based on Acid's positioning in this promotional art, is that Acid would definitely not be fully on board with the Master of Masters after being summoned back. But speaking of Acid in the Lost Master arc, I'm also curious of just how he could actually appear in this next arc. And while I'm not entirely sure if he or any of the Foretellers, besides maybe Luxu for that matter, appear in the very next installment that is Kingdom Hearts 4, I do think that Aset will make his appearance known at some point in the Lost Master arc. So as of now, I'm wondering if we'll see Aset as some sort of unlockable boss fight or secret boss fight in either Kingdom Hearts 4 or a future Kingdom Hearts installment as part of the Lost Master arc. It's very possible that this could be how each of the Foretellers appear to Sora at first before we get to explore their actual storyline, at least as their initial appearance in the Lost Master arc. In fact, if Aset and the other Foretellers do end up appearing in Kingdom Hearts 4, I wouldn't be surprised if they appear to Sora in this way as unlockable bosses or secret bosses towards the end of the game as opposed to a subplot in the game. However, what we might earn from those fights is some sort of teaser scene, perhaps a flashback or a set of unlocked memories from each of the Foretellers we have to face. But as far as Aset's scaling, if we do have to face him as Sora, I imagine that Aset will be quite a powerful boss to face. Obviously not as powerful as perhaps the Master Masters or even another Foreteller like Ira, but powerful enough to be a very hefty boss fight. I'm thinking if we face the Foretellers in order from weakest to strongest, Aset might be the second or third strongest behind Ira and maybe Luxu or perhaps Ava. Particularly, Aset would be very likely more of a brute force type of boss with very heavy hits. And as far as how Ira could appear in the Lost Master arc, I'm imagining much of the same thing in terms of how we'll first see him in this next arc. That is, if he's not the second hooded figure we saw in Quadratum in the first Kingdom Hearts 4 trailer. So if the Foretellers are revealed via unlockable or secret bosses, I imagine that we'd face Ira Sora as either the penultimate boss or the third from the final boss, just because there's a chance that the penultimate boss we face could either be Ava or even Luxu, depending on the story's direction and just when we could see an appearance from Ava in the Lost Master arc. But with Ira being closer and more devoted to the Master of Masters, I wouldn't be surprised if we had to face him later in the series as opposed to early on in the series, since there's a good chance Ira may be working a little more closely with the Master of Masters. And if I had to scale Ira's power to the rest of the Foretellers, I think that Ira would actually be a more powerful boss than Aset, which will place Ira in that second or third strongest Foreteller before the Master of Masters. I think that Ira would actually be a more balanced boss with an equal advantage in strength and magic and possibly powerful counterattacks as well. But overall, I'm hoping that we'll see more of Ira, Aset, and the other Foretellers in the Lost Master arc. I think we have a good chance to really dive more into each of the Foretellers' motives and eventual decisions when it comes to how they navigate, possibly working again with the Master of Masters since being summoned back. But I want to hear from you, so let me know what you think of Ira and Aset's path in the Lost Master arc in the comments below. If you want to explore some more Kingdom Hearts theories, I'll be linking another Kingdom Hearts theory video here in the end screen. And as always, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel if you enjoyed this video and want to watch more Kingdom Hearts content. And if there's anyone who may have questions about what to expect for the upcoming Kingdom Hearts games, be sure to share this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.